This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
All right, yes, we are back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. I am Jake Bockoven, ready to talk the latest in WWE wrestling as we look back at the last week. I'm joined by my tag team partner and partner in crime, Augie Pena. Augie, how you doing this weekend?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, there was some good wrestling. It was nice and warm here, as well, so it doesn't feel like it's smack dab middle of December. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk some wrestling.
Yeah, and I think it was a pretty good week of wrestling. Of course, they are now kind of have the programming leading up to Saturday night's main event. As big a wrestling fans as we are, it's a little bit of a different generation that maybe goes back to that. Are you excited for Saturday night's main event? Did you have enough or any exposure to that growing up?
Yeah, I did. I saw it, obviously we were pretty young when that was really a thing, but I always think it's nice when they bring back the nostalgic, premium live events or gimmicks in there. As long as they don't overuse it or overdo it on that. I'm pretty excited. And it looks like they got a pretty decent card set up for it. So pretty excited for that too.
And Jesse the Body Ventura is going to be to be announcing that. So that'll be interesting as well. I think it's funny when they bring those guys back in. Sometimes they're not necessarily caught up with recent programming. So they try their best to sound like they have been paying attention. So we'll kind of see how that works out. But that's an ode to the past. He's called many Saturday night main events. So that'll be kind of fun. As I said, we kind of go through WWE's past week in programming that would just include Raw and SmackDown. Currently, there was no premium live event this week. And because there was nothing overwhelmingly crazy on SmackDown, i.e. Roman Reigns was missing, we can start with Raw. Usually Roman Reigns does something it's a must talk about over the weekend, but this is kind of that period where there's still the story around Roman Reigns, but it's always good with a star like that, I think, to take a week off here and there and just refresh it. So when you say, okay, now Roman's returning to SmackDown, or likely what will happen, going into Netflix and Raw, it's kind of fresh to see him once again.
Yeah, it'll be good, and especially after kind of the War Games, everything that happened there. It's a little confusing when they're gone, and then Solo and them do their own thing, but it's good for business, I guess. Yeah, to give Roman some time off there, bring him back, and kind of see where we go from there. And then I'm excited because they've kind of hinted that SmackDown and Raw are both going to be going to 3 hours here, so I guess we'll have to see if we get more wrestling in there, Jake.
That's right, more wrestling to cover, more topics for here on Nuclear Heat. But and it is interesting. They're also kind of copying the college football world or college sports in general, and even using the term transfer portal right now.
Yep.
Seems to be time for a shakeup, which is fine. And with Netflix bringing in Raw, it's understandable that they do a shakeup here. I always think it's kind of funny when they just go ahead and make up their own little rules and run with something that's kind of going. And transfer portal has been all over the news in college sports. And so they kind of have a transfer portal of themselves. Which included some SmackDown and Raw stars showing up on the other brand. I don't know about you, but it's for me. It's they've done it so much. I don't pay too much attention. It's not like I have SmackDown pride or Raw pride. I just kind of tune in.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I know they've really been building up SmackDown to kind of be equal to Raw, but it really does feel like Raw is still the premier show, right? And with this transfer portal, kind of the hints they're giving, it really feels like all the major players are going to go to Raw, and some guys that are really good are going to end up on SmackDown, where we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, they'll do their best to kind of keep both shows entertaining. And sometimes on the A show, sometimes as a wrestling fan, I feel like some of the characters that they're trying to develop and maybe work out on the quote unquote B show, which for the longest time and for its history was SmackDown, until it kind of went to Fox and took over that spot. Now I think you're right with Raw taking Netflix back. Raw is going to be the A show once again. And at different times during, the last 20 several years, 30 years, whatever it has been since SmackDown started, there's a varying degree of level of what the A show and B show mean. Like sometimes it was just like you could just miss SmackDown on UPN or whatever it was, and you wouldn't miss a thing. There are other times where they did keep the roster separate pretty well. And so it was almost like you're watching a different company when you were watching Raw and SmackDown. And those particular were good when they had kind of the survival series. And then you did see those kind of clashing of personalities. But over the last several years, it just kind of feels like, whatever happens. And then, if you watch wrestling too long, you also know, like, whatever move is made currently for the roster, it can change in 3 months. It can change in 4 months. So it's just really hard for me to really like pay too much attention to this transfer portal. But at least it's something new, and at least they're kind of taking advantage of some lingo that might catch some attention.
Yeah, that's always cool. I just remember when we were younger, like, the Batista era, and that those guys would be on just one brand, right? So you would never see him on Raw. It took like 2 or 3 years before that. And I'm going to say something that blows the mind. I didn't know that SmackDown wasn't live until like 2014. I did not know it was a pre-taped show. And when I found out, it blew my mind, because I went to a taping and it was on a Tuesday and it was Friday Night SmackDown. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this is the main show. And so I know. I'm supposed to be a true wrestling fan, but this was before the internet, right? Before they told us all that stuff.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind. But yeah, I'm just, I'm with you there, SmackDown, Raw, as long as they keep it interesting, keep people in different storylines and things like that, it'll all be fine.
Yeah, the shakeups at least do allow for, different personalities to get in the mix. So let's go ahead and jump into Raw, which was kind of the beginning, was just a lot of personalities getting into the mix. CM Punk opened up Monday's Night Raw. He was pointing to this WrestleMania sign that wasn't there. He kind of let his intentions be known, what he was going to do. Seth Rollins interrupted. They had a really nice back and forth. Seth Rollins basically saying, I haven't forgotten about you. I think about you every day. I'm coming after you. CM Punk with a very good return of, well, now that you don't have the belt, I don't think about you at all. So some really good shots taken from guys that have real life heat, that they're milking every bit of that for as long as they can. Eventually, I think we're going to get Rollins and Punk. But we ultimately kind of had them pretty much close to a brawl, if not starting to push each other around, until Jey Uso and Sami Zayn entered the ring to break it up. This allowed Seth Rollins to kind of start going at Sami Zayn. He said, I understand why Jey Uso is back in the bloodline. That's family, but you're not. Then they really started to take shots similar to what we saw from the New Day. They really went for the heart in this segment. So they were really going after each other, even both kind of taking shots at each other for different chair shots that they have taken at Roman Reigns over the years. And it ended up with kind of these friends being so frustrated that they were going to go ahead and lead up for a main event. So this is how we got our main event: Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins. Bit of a face versus face, but Rollins is kind of is flirting with the line, I suppose.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. I really do enjoy the fact that they're bringing some. It all feels real, kind of like Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. It all feels real on what they're saying there. I just don't. They're going after Sammy, on this, and okay, I get it, with the Seth Rollins thing there, but I thought, I don't know, it felt really forced, when Sammy's like, all right, you want to take your anger out on somebody, let's do this. But other than that, I thought this was a pretty good segment. I didn't think that Sammy and Jay needed to be involved, because I love CM Punk and Seth Rollins. I thought that was great, and we've all been asking for that, injuries, years, all that stuff. We want to see it happen. And I'm very curious on what they do with CM Punk, because they've been teasing a world title, with Gunther for a while, and now him saying road to WrestleMania. That's what he said Paul Heyman's the favor is going to be, is a call into, Royal Rumble, whatever it is. But you've got Seth Rollins there, so they're really teasing us with a lot of options there, and I thought it was a great start for Monday Night Raw there.
Yeah, and I like it too. Just with all the personalities involved, there's a lot of different ways that they can go, and just kind of letting the wrestler kind of, or wrestling fan, make up for their own mind what they want to see next, who's kind of battling who. We say it often, and I just love it when you kind of open up the locker room, you take advantage, and you take you actually acknowledge history, which they did here. Kind of helps the long-term storytelling. Fans that have been in it for a long time kind of feel like, okay, this is a payoff for me watching for 10 years, type of thing. So, I really like this, just kind of everybody frustrated too. And I know you said you don't know why they're going after Sammy, but there's a lot of it that makes sense of being the whole storytelling around WWE the last couple of years is that Roman's taken over and the Bloodline was a heel faction group that was just dominating everybody, and so the roster now wants to get their payback, and Sammy is the ultimate good guy.
Yeah.
But if he joins back up with the Bloodline, then where does that put him? So they just kind of have everybody in an interesting situation that I thought worked out well there. The first match of the night was Damage Control against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. This was Io Sky and Kairi Sane Damage Control. Reminder, they're still kind of working out getting maybe Asuka back. Dakota Kai's back, but she's not part of their tag team right now. But in any case, Damage Control and against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Pretty quick match. Raquel Rodriguez was able to overwhelm Kairi Sane. Pretty big difference in size there. So very believable there. After the match, a beatdown of Sky was in place. Of course, all this because Sky will challenge Morgan at Saturday night's main event. She had earned that over previous episodes of Raw. So it made sense in storyline. And then Rhea Ripley coming to make the save, only to be sent crashing into the corner of the announcer's table with their skull or broken eye socket once again from Raquel Rodriguez. Did you like this kind of advancing storylines again on two fronts with both Io Sky and for Rhea Ripley?
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I hate it because Sky's been doing such a great job. You don't want her to be an afterthought, with the her facing Liv at Saturday Night Live there, because Rhea and Liv is ultimately where they're gonna go. So it's a hard position there, but I thought it was all right. They got a good use out of Kairi Sane and Raquel Rodriguez here. Man, you got to kind of worry for Rhea a little bit though, right? I mean, I know it's all kayfabe, fake. The injury is there and that, but the bump she's taking on that eye. I mean, sooner or later, it feels like something's gonna happen on that. But yeah, I thought it was all right.
You remember that match they had a couple years ago where between Rollins and Rey Mysterio, and the only way to win was to get the other guy's eye out of his socket?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. That was
they actually played it off like Rey Mysterio had lost an eye, and they had some visual effects in there. That was the COVID era, I think. That's when they were allowed to do a little bit more without any people out in the crowd. So yeah, hopefully we're not headed toward that. Is the only reason why I reminisce and bring that up. Let's move on further with Raw backstage. Gunther brushed off Finn Balor's request for a world title shot, instead saying he would make a match with Dominic Mysterio, who had recently beaten Damian Priest on a recent episode of Raw. So kind of made some sense there. Finn Balor still on his journey now after having taken out Damian Priest. We didn't see any Damian Priest here tonight. Again, makes sense because it can make it pretty fresh. I think it's pretty obvious where we might see Damian Priest pop up though once again.
Yeah, and I think because WWE is moving to X, Twitter, kind of doing a lot of back things. I think after War Games, they showed the Judgment Day minus Dominic Mysterio, I think, attacked Damian Priest and took him out. Yep. So I think that's why he's out. But you're right, keep it fresh. Damian will be away for a while. I like this because we've talked about it. We want Dom to kind of get into more matches. Hey, and if it's Gunther saying, hey, I feel good about myself, I'm going to make Finn Balor mad. Dom, I love that. I'm really starting to like what they're doing here with Finn's character. It's evident he's going to leave the Judgment Day. It's going to happen. And from what Friday showed, Dominic might be leaving, too. You don't know what's going on here. So I thought this was a little fun segment behind the scenes to set up that match for later.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Dominic Mysterio might be one of my favorite wrestlers, just characters that they've got going right now. And the last couple of years when he's been so over with the crowd as far as booing him and the nuclear heat, like our show states, it was on Dominic. They hadn't necessarily pushed him to take advantage of that. I mean, he's always the dastardly heel that's getting his comeuppance. But at some point, it's nice to see him rise up the rankings and start to fight some of the guys on top of the ladder. And this was a situation like that, and we can get to that in a second. It's just he did well enough that the crowd was chanting for him. I mean, I'm interested to see what they do moving forward with Dominic Mysterio for sure. Like you said, a little Easter egg on SmackDown. He was in the background talking to their general manager, so maybe he'll be heading over there. So that'll be kind of interesting. And Finn Balor, again, the story they're telling with Judgment Day is he's kind of listened to Finn, even though Judgment Day is not supposed to have leaders, It's kind of turning over to listen to Finn and we can win. So interesting sort of stuff going on there. Let's get into Raw's first triple threat match of the tournament for the Intercontinental Championship. This was between Dakota Kai, Katana Chance, and Shayna Baszler. Dakota Kai, who had promos for her recently, and who had also recently just made a return, does ultimately defeat Chance and Baszler for the win. I thought this was the right person to put over. I'm interested. Dakota Kai, a little bit older than she even looks, so I think it's time for her singles career. They've tried to push her at times. Injuries have gotten in the way. I think this tournament is an excellent launching point to see what we can get with her. I don't know if she's going to be a favorite to win the Intercontinental title, but I wouldn't be mad if she did.
I mean, that's kind of who I'm pulling for on the Raw side of it. Like you said, she's been around for a while. I mean, she was in NXT for like 7-8 years before getting the call up. She's older than we are. That's not good, when you're trying to, get your push on there on Raw. But yeah, I thought this was a fun little match. Katana Chance always, she always go for the big spots. The big thing for me is Shayna Baszler, how far she has fallen.
Mind your mind. Inspiring.
No, it's all good. That's she's
we're getting a surprise entrance.
Yeah, she's a little disappointed in Shayna Baszler too. Just they're still promoting her as I don't even remember what their faction's called. I'm never gonna remember what it is. I'm sorry. It's Pretty Face something. I don't know. Pure Fusion Collective.
There it is. Yeah,
they're still saying she's a part of that and everything, even though you don't ever see them together anymore. But she has a chance to be something, and it's just not working on there. So.
Yeah, I've long been a push Shayna Baszler guy. Just like you said, right now doesn't feel like the time because she's just not. That group just doesn't have really anything going for it, which is disappointing because I like all the characters involved. It just never got a put. I mean, it just got 50-50 booking. They never looked too threatening. They were going to have to if they wanted to. I mean, it did pay off kind of long-term storytelling here too, because Shayna Baszler and that group took out Dakota Kai. She had an injury, and so they wrote her off that way. So we'll see. Maybe something could come back up. But yeah, they need to do something to get Shayna Baszler back because she's believable. If they let her win, I think she has certain records for premium live events, Elimination Chamber in particular. I think she still holds the record for eliminating people in that. At one time, she was a top push. And then again, we've stated it before, but that Rhea Ripley or Ronda Rousey, excuse me, departing the company, that's the storyline that needed to be told. That was like, it was going to be, but it just was so rushed and so obvious what was happening. It didn't put her over like they wanted it to, or present her like they wanted it to. And I just feel like that's such a missed opportunity because you couldn't write it any better for her.
Yeah.
And it didn't get her over really.
Yeah. They gave them like 3 weeks to build something. I remember that. We were very disappointed when they started doing that. And I mean, they still have a chance to do something with her because she's also a UFC former, champion, I want to say. She believable, the believable side of it, and she could do it. She doesn't talk the greatest on the mic, but who needs to when you can beat people up, on there too. So I hope they do something with that. Because that's a huge disappointment to kind of just see where she goes. She loses a lot now. And that's she was on a win streak in NXT and all that stuff. And then they bring her up and it hasn't worked out.
Feels like she's just going to be one of the members in a Royal Rumble. Coming up
eventually.
So, Pure Fusion Collective. I don't know how much longer that's got to it, but we'll see. Because like I said, I do like all the individual wrestlers in that group. Let's go to the big storyline here on Raw was the New Day's celebration of 10 years. And of course, they had been telling the story of Xavier and Kofi not getting along. It was basically gonna come to this, where they were probably gonna split up. They even were in the ring about to say as much when Big E's music comes back. And I think they did a good job too. The crowd was kind of cheering for Big E, and they briefly acknowledged it, but pretty much just kind of brushed that off and just kept going. And then that made Big E's return even better. It's like, okay, now they're going to acknowledge Big E back in the ring. Big E announces he's just not going to let New Day break up. He's going to be their manager. He's going to be there for them. And then to the surprise of everybody, Xavier, well, not the surprise of everybody, this part, Xavier turns on Big E. Xavier had been kind of lined up to be the heel. This is where you expect Kofi to take Big E's side and then, commence their breakup and their feud from there. But instead, Kofi actually had Xavier's back. They both turned on Big E, who's not even competing right now. And it allowed them as a group to turn heel and basically get Big E out of the group is kind of what they're saying, even though he's not an active wrestler. very interesting turn of events. A lot of, for fans that have been watching the New Day for a long time, for folks that wanted to see, hey, maybe Big E's gonna wiggle his way back into a weekly role and maybe get out there to fight again. They were telling him, Kurt Angle won a gold Olympic medal with a broken neck. The Edge won this or that with a broken neck. He needs to come back. So it was kind of funny. It was hard to perfectly get into the believability in my mind that they would really snap at him like that. But it was a big swerve that I don't think anybody really saw it coming.
Yeah. On that there with that, I was shocked. I was honestly shocked. With it there, car accident just happened right there. Yeah, car accident just happened right in front of us.
That does happen.
Yeah, bumper fell off right in front of us. So with that, I was shocked a little bit. I didn't expect that to happen, and it was just a really weird situation and kind of thing to do. I thought, their hatred for Biggie is going to keep Kofi and Xavier together now. And man, the believability, like you said, of it, because I forgot this. Xavier Wood just completely tore his Achilles too. And that was going to be career ending, and they worked into that. So I'm excited to kind of see where it was. Like you said, Kofi as a heel, I don't think we've really seen it. Xavier, they can work it on the mic. I'm kind of excited to see what they do, and then what they end up doing with Biggie. Does he get medically cleared? Is this going to be he's going to work his way back to get back at his brothers, because they were together for 10 years and all that, and then they essentially just turn on him. But my favorite thing about all this is, I don't know how much you followed them on X, but Biggie's fiance was saying something like, I was just getting ready to cook and all that. And then Xavier responds like, your cooking's bland. And then she responds, not as bland as your WWE career. Like, they were going back and forth at it. And I loved it. It was the greatest thing. I love when they take, the storylines and turn it like into X and, Twitter and all that stuff. And ooh, man, this has the ability to do something here if they work it right.
And poor Xavier Woods, who, gets to be a part of a faction with 2 world champions, and eventually will be used against you. I get it. But that's a heck of a career that he's had so far, and now it's kind of the whole storyline is basically you're kind of the disappointing one of the group.
Yeah, that's I mean, but it's the truth, and oh man, it's hilarious. But on the side note, he's got a very successful YouTube page and all social media, so he's doing life good there. It's just in the WWE ring, he's never. I'm king of the ring.
King of the ring.
He got that, so he's a king. You can say that.
King of the ring has rarely helped anybody.
Yeah,
in recent years, at least.
Well, Gunther doesn't even. I mean, they don't
even acknowledge it anymore.
Yeah, they're not doing anything, and that just happened during the summer. So that's a disappointment.
Well, you hate when they did this again with War Games, when they just kind of bury their own premium live event that they tried to sell you on, like this is the big event, and then a couple weeks later, whatever happened there, they hardly even acknowledge. So we'll get to that too in a little bit. But yeah, lots of different opportunities here. Remember, the New Day was originally a heel group, which people may forget before the Bootios and the hoo and all that stuff. They were actually a heel group. So now back to the roots, I suppose.
Yeah, and I remember when these 3 were put together, I was not interested. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like,
because they were like a promotion of like a church choir.
Yeah,
so you're just like I don't know if this is a long-term great gig.
And then they ran with it, brought in the Bootios, the trumpet, the brum, brum, all that stuff. Yep, all the fun stuff. And they're now one of the most successful WWE tag team. Well, yeah, you'd have to say tag team, but trios, groups of all time, in a 10-year span. So they did great work with it.
Well, and they've said too in interviews that they're never going to break up. And that's what made you kind of think about this. And this is kind of, it's a soft breakup because the guy that they're breaking up with isn't competing right now.
He's got a broken neck.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, and it makes you wonder too, is Big E pretty far away from returning, I should say? Was this just a way, they've kind of, maybe it felt like been putting the group on ice to hopefully get to a Big E return. If this is kind of the way they're doing it, maybe it's to swerve you and that he's coming back pretty soon and it'll make a big surprise. But to me, going from always going to be on weekly television to no, we're not going to use them at all. It's kind of like, well, maybe he's not too close to a return.
Yeah, I have no. I mean, he didn't need surgery, right? I think I heard that, but I don't know. I mean, when you break your neck and stuff like that, like what is it? They said he was like one vertebrae away from being paralyzed permanently. I don't know how much of a rush, oh, wow, my voice. I don't know how much of a rush, I'd be to go back into the ring. I know that it's what he loves to do and all that stuff, but this only happened a year and a half ago, maybe. It feels like it's been forever, but it really hasn't. So you have to wonder how close, if they'll even, ever clear him.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. That was something that we thought might happen with his return, but didn't quite get there. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're about halfway, about maybe 3/4 of the way through Raw. We still got to get through the rest of that and SmackDown as we do our WWE Week in Review here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be right back after this short break.
And commercial structures safe for more than 50 years. From a simple fire extinguisher to full fire suppression systems, Lincoln has trusted General Fire and Safety to provide top-of-the-line products, installation, and maintenance. If you're starting a new business in a brand new building, call on General Fire and Safety to help you plan a fire safety system that fits the specific needs of your business, employees, and customers. Call General Fire and Safety today at 402-261-0116.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Infrastructure, a veteran-owned local company proudly serving Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the surrounding areas. Bauer provides quality work at an affordable price, and they're growing rapidly. If you want to experience a career with a fast-paced, family-friendly environment, visit BauerInfrastructure.com. They have top-of-the-line benefits, year-round work, even through the winter. Bauer, usher in the new era of infrastructure to an area near you. And as always, go Big Red!
Come enjoy a show of the Midwest's best MMA fighters on Saturday, December 7th with Violence Fight League 2 at the Complex, the former location of Champions Fun Center. Fights are scheduled throughout the night, and if you haven't been before, now is the perfect time to go, with Nebraska football in between the regular season and a bowl game. Doors open at 6 p.m. with the first bout at 7 p.m. Learn more about the fighters and buy tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com.
Slay the holidays this year with a gift that'll really get them going. One that's built to win, like the new Honda CRF-R Motocrosser. One that's built for fun, like a Honda Mini Moto. Or one for each member of the family, like a Honda CRF Trail Bike. At Rod's Power Sports, you'll find the motorcycle, ATV, or side-by-side they'll love. During the Honda Gifts That Go sales event, you can slay the streets in style with the Grom Mini Moto, slay the trails with the CRF 50F, or pile into a Pioneer 1006 Deluxe Crew that can carry 6 elves over the fields and through the woods all year long. This year, don't just give any gift. Give the gift of outdoor adventure with a ride they'll never forget. Don't miss out. Head to Rod's Power Sports in Lincoln, Nebraska during the Honda Gifts That Go sales event. It's your chance to slay the holidays and your gift list. Dealer participation may vary. See dealer for complete program and safety details.
At Farm Bureau Financial Services, we strive to provide you with the right coverages for all your insurance needs by taking the time to meet with you and review what coverages best fit your needs. So whether you're in the market for home, auto, farm, business, life, or a combination of any of these coverages, we can help with making sure you, your family, or your business have the right coverage based on your individual needs. If you would like to review your insurance needs, please contact Ben Spurt with Farm Bureau Financial Services at 402-217-9945 or through email at ben.spurt@fbfs.com.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are indeed back here on Nuclear Heat with our WWE Week in Review. I'm Jake Bockoven alongside Augie Pena to run through this week in review for the WWE. We've been about halfway through WWE Raw. Just got through the segment where the New Day turned on Big E, that being Xavier and Kofi. Again, if you want to hear our thoughts on the beginning of Raw or any of that sort of stuff, head to theticketfm.com to kind of catch up to where we are at this point, which is Gunther against Dominic Mysterio. This was not for the title, but it was certainly, if Dominic Mysterio was going to win this would vault him up the discussion as far as challenging Gunther for the title. The World Heavyweight Champion did end up getting a victory here. As I mentioned earlier in the evening, there were Dirty Tom chants, so it was kind of an interesting heel versus heel routine where you had to choose one, and Dominic Mysterio is just, is the obvious underdog in that example. And I think wrestling fans are just ready to give back to Dominic a little bit. They know that they've been, he's been somebody that you just boo, but his character work has been pretty fantastic over the last couple of years. So it is good to get some chance in there. He almost pulled off the upset with a frog splash, but was ultimately upended by the bigger Gunther. Gunther gets the win and then is attacked by Finn Balor, who hits a few coup de grace to send a message to the upcoming fight that he's going to have, because Adam Pearce also informed Balor that he would get the world title opportunity against Gunther at Saturday night's main event in a backstage segment. He also told Balor that he would have to defend his world tag team titles this upcoming week. So they didn't really announce who that was going to be against or how that was going to look. So that's going to be intriguing tomorrow night. But altogether, heel versus heel. It's the second time they've had Gunther and Dominic Mysterio battle. They did this before when Gunther was the Intercontinental title. But it just felt like a fresh matchup, not something you would expect coming into the night. And I thought I had some fun watching it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. And, this is how you build a character, with Dirty Dom. And they need to watch themselves, because it is getting to the point where people are starting to chant for him. Just a couple months ago, as you mentioned, it was boos, he couldn't talk, and they still do that for the fun of it, but people want to see him win now. So, they're going to have to decide when they want to pull that card, to kind of put him in the main event picture there. But I think he does great in the ring, and I thought this was fun. And you knew Gunther wasn't going to lose, because you couldn't do that to Gunther. He's just saying he's getting his confidence back and things like that. You can't have him lose this. But I mean, they really tease us with it, and Dirty Dom could have pulled the ultimate upset. So I thought that was really fun. And then, of course, Finn coming in, and I love when he looks at Dom after he attacked Gunther, and he's like, "That's how you do it." That's how you do it there. Just like I said, caught more. Judgment Day is just going to split. And then, him being told he's going to go for championship gold and defend his title. I mean, Damian Priest has a chance here to take the, to interfere in both of those matches and take away the the tag team champs, and then ruin his chance at a world heavyweight championship, and then kind of get the real storyline going there. But, I think this is great work from all three of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways this can go, and it's going to be interesting. Does Pierce return, like you said, Priest return to cost Balor tomorrow night, which I don't think is the right move, but that's what I'm expecting, because I don't think it's the right move, is that they, just jump right back into it. Or does he ultimately show up against Gunther and cost him the opportunity there at Saturday night's main event? That's what I really do expect to happen. And makes a lot of sense for storytelling to get those two back at each other. The interesting part is Gunther hasn't wanted help, and that kind of what they told the first kind of go around when Balor cost Priest any opportunity. If it happens in the reverse, you wonder if maybe they could be headed for a three-way battle, but that would take away from the little battle that never quite happened to its fulfillment, I suppose, between Balor and Priest. So there's a lot of different ways they can go here. Also, if Balor and Judgment Day do lose the tag team titles, they've held them for a while, but they don't feel all that important around their waist. So it wouldn't be all that surprising to see them drop them tomorrow night.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say is, I know when you said it'd be a little surprising, Finn has now cost Damian twice in the World Heavyweight Championship. So he could cost him twice. in essentially a week. In a week span there. But we talked about it. We forgot that, the Judgment Day were the world tag team champs on the Raw side. They just don't do anything with it. They don't even carry them around. Like, when was the last time you saw Finn with this title? JD still does every once in a while when you see him and they're in the background, but Finn never acknowledges it until he's mad that they have to defend him or something like that. They're just kind of thrown to the waist. So pretty much give them to any other team, So I wouldn't be disappointed if they lost them, because as you said, as we said, just give them to any other team that's going to defend them more. Be proud to be champions. That's their main storyline.
I just feel bad for JD McDonough in all this, because he does a great job. And I mean, he's kind of the new guy, had to take a lot of the beatings, and he's done it. And he's great at selling. He's kind of like Dolph Ziggler. You just go watch a lot of his matches, because he'll get flipped around and he's just great at selling it. And he just feels like, especially with Balor getting now kind of overshadowing the tag team titles and looking for a bigger gold, it just feels like when we look back at this and think, well, that tag team championship should have got JD over maybe more. I don't think it quite has.
No, it hasn't. And like you said, he's great. He's great in the ring too. He's great on everything. Just he's one of those guys that just suffered from being the guy that took the pin. Was the butt of every joke, things like that. And as we've seen with Solo Sikoa, that takes a very long time to turn around, even when you are being pushed to the moon. So yeah, I feel for him too. And then that makes you wonder when the eventual Judgment Day split does happen, where's JD gonna go? Because he's said he's always Finn Balor. That's his guy. They've been friends for like 20 years or something like that, like real life friends and all that. They've kind of come up together. So I mean, he'll hopefully have a part of it, and we'll just have to see where he goes.
Yeah, we'll see. I will be intrigued to see if they keep the belts tomorrow night. Then we go into another backstage segment here. An unknown assailant has attacked Jey Uso, leaving him clutching the back of his head. And so Sami Zayn's upset about it. He's trying to figure out who did it. Before we get to the main event between Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins, of course, R-Truth has to take on Pete Dunne and ultimately defeats Butch. The crowd was chanting Butch. I know you love R-Truth. Does this entertain you enough to qualify for some airtime here?
I mean, it's hilarious because, like, what are they doing to Pete Dunne? Like he's trying to shred that Butch, and now there's a whole storyline where he's getting mad at R-Truth, and R-Truth is calling him Butch, and now everybody's calling him Butch again. And I don't know. I thought it was fun, but you really didn't need this. I mean, this is the definition of a time slot filler here.
Yeah.
Because it was like a 4-minute match. It wasn't that long. And then ultimately R-Truth got the win over Pete Dunne. That can't be good for your career there.
Yeah, and it's weird because Pete Dunne kind of had that back and forth with Sheamus, and then that kind of turned into Sheamus kind of bleeding into another back and forth with somebody else. And so you never just got really closure on that. And that was really the only thing Pete Dunne could use for his character with that, going back to them as a group. And now he's just kind of lost there. And it just, I don't know. This doesn't feel great for me to say Pete Dunne might be here, 2 or 3 years down the line, but you never know. It, like we always say, airtime is better than catering time. So Pete Dunne at least achieved that this week. Then we had Sami Zayn go against Seth Rollins, get hard fought match as you would expect between the two veteran competitors. Eventually, again, Sami Zayn is convinced that Seth Rollins took Jey Uso out backstage. And so he is willing to go to that next level. He even gets a chair. He's ready to hit Seth Rollins with a chair. Rollins talks him out of it. Of course, these guys being friends is kind of the story, the frustration tonight, and rolls him up for the pin and the win. So Sami Zayn is left frustrated in the ring as Rollins leaves, and then Drew McIntyre makes a surprise return in a hood to Claymore Sami Zayn, and thankfully not attack CM Punk. But is this still is this tied to CM Punk? I mean, Sami Zayn, Rollins, that's why they're fighting, is the kind of the Punk thing at War Games. So is McIntyre? Do you think he's going to be squarely? Is he the one that attacked Jay? Do you think this is just kind of a group attack on I'm blanking on the Judgment or Bloodline.
The OG Bloodline.
Yeah,
100%. Man, this is our worst fear here, because what I think ultimately, because I know what I said at the beginning, but now that we're kind of talking about this here, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. We're not going to get Seth Rollins, CM Punk, because Drew McIntyre always has to be in the middle of it. And that's what it looks like we're heading towards, because the only reason he's going after Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso is because they teamed up with CM Punk, and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre were supposed to fight to the death, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Drew McIntyre doesn't like Seth Rollins either. So here we go with this. I'm going to call it a love triangle here. They just can't get away from each other. And yeah, it's you almost called it. He just came back to attack the wrong person, but kind of for the same person, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We'll see if it all intertwines again. I think with the group that they've got going there with CM Punk and now McIntyre and Rollins and Zayn, I mean, they all kind of fit into that main event some way or the other last year. And so I like that kind of storytelling, furthering it down the road. I saw another list too of like the best feuds this year in WWE that I think WWE put out themselves, and McIntyre and Punk was up there at the top. I'm just going,
here we go again.
And then I honestly, it's been long enough. I wouldn't absolutely hate it, I suppose, but I just, you just can't go back to 2 or 3 more months of it. I mean, if they do it on a one-off that leads to another feud starting somewhere, I mean, that's what they need. They need to turn the focus at some point away from those two. But we'll see if it's there. At least, again, a lot of just kind of questions. Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guys in all of this? Very, very cool stuff in wrestling going on right now. All right, let's take a quick break, and we will we'll review SmackDown when we get back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Who wants free diamonds? This holiday season, as a thank you for shopping with us, Sartor Heyman Jewelers is giving you free diamonds. Now through December 6th, receive a pair of sparkling diamond stud earrings, a stunning diamond pendant, or a gorgeous diamond tennis bracelet for free with your qualifying purchase. We only have a limited number to give away, so once they're gone, they're gone. Don't wait on this one. Visit Sartor Heyman Jewelers, where your gift shopping shines brighter. In Lincoln at South Point Mall, downtown, and in Grand Island on State Street.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, wanting to thank you all again for your continued service. November is off and running. Check this out. Get up to $12,000 off or 0% financing on select new vehicles. We have great lease specials with new Trax and Trailblazers starting at $299 per month and new Blazer EVs leasing for $399. Great payments, discounts, and of course, 0% financing. So make that short drive down 144th Street or check us out online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did. All finance with approved credit, leases with $2,500 down.
This holiday season.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, we will jump right into SmackDown on our WWE Week in Review show because it took us a while to get through Raw 2 segments, so we got one for SmackDown here. They started off SmackDown with kind of this slow-mo close-up breakdown view of the injuries at War Games and kind of let us know what was going to be happening moving forward. Jimmy broke his toe. Jimmy Uso, that is, broke his toe. They kind of slowed it down to show you how that happened. Tonga Loa tore his bicep. So they showed how that happened too, and then Bronson Reed breaking his ankle slow-mo. You see it going on, from the top of War Games. I just thought this was good altogether to kind of put over War Games, take advantage of injuries, as odd as that sounds, and this kind of showing how it happened in a video game-like sequence.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really cool that maybe they should do it more often.
Yeah.
But I do understand why they don't do it as often. This was maybe just a special case to show that War Games really does take its toll on folks.
Yeah, and the close-up of Tonga's surgery, and things like that, I thought that was pretty gnarly, so that was pretty nice. But yeah, I agree, I liked it. It just shows, we all know, spoiler alert, it's all scripted, right? So, but what they do is real out there, and there's a good chance, somebody's going to get hurt. And 3 out of the 10 participants of this got hurt and are going to be out for a while, unfortunately. Like Bronson Reed.
Yeah,
I've never, knock on wood, broken my ankle, but I assume you don't come back from that pretty fast.
Which is frustrating. He's at the top of his push of his career right now.
Yeah, I was hearing rumors, maybe CM Punk, a little mini feud, Seth Rollins, they still had that. Now you got to hope that his momentum can come back. That's got to be at least 6 months, 7 months, half a year.
So.
Yeah, out WrestleMania season. That's not good when you're getting probably the biggest push of your career there. So, hope he comes back. But broken toe, I get that too, on there. But yeah, I thought it was fun. Show us those. Like you said, it's not kid friendly, but once you move to Raw, hey, you can show us everybody's injuries, show us the gruesome up close to that. So yeah, I thought it was a good little segment to show where they'll be, why they'll be, and that it's real.
Yeah. And I hate to say this, but is the bloodline better without Tonga Loa? Tonga Loa is just, we've talked before how they didn't do a great job of taking care of Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa coming in, but Tama Tonga stands out. I mean, he's wild. He's kind of like, he's just kind of got his own thing that he does. So he stands out. Tonga Loa is always just kind of like the other guy in a suit.
With the eye patch, right? He's the one
right. They did have the eye patch for a while, which at least gave him something. I just noticed when they brought out kind of the three, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga and so it's sometimes just too much. A group can kind of get too big that you kind of lose them when it's just kind of defined to 3 guys along with Solo Sikoa there. It was kind of like, okay, this is more of a stable that I can kind of get behind. But maybe, I mean, hopefully I don't want to back on Tonga Loa for too much. He just kind of got into it. He just doesn't, hate to say it, he just doesn't seem to have too much of a personality yet as a wrestler in WWE.
No, not at all. And Tama's starting to grow on you, isn't he? With that, with that thing
Yes.
he does, that math thing.
I like Tama Tonga. I really do.
He's wild. I just hope they use him more than they've been using him, because he's kind of the doormat right now too, with Tonga of that group. I think the crowd is starting to get behind him too. So, it's slowly working for the new bloodline. People are getting behind Solo. He's funny. He's kind of doing stuff. Jacob, of course. Now, Tama, with the whole crazy stuff, the wild thing, it's starting to rub off on people.
And that can be hard to pull off too. I mean, they do that, at times they're just like, you'll name a guy something to be like, he's crazy. And you're just like, well, I just don't see it. Like, even I love Dean Ambrose when they're like, he's a lunatic.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, why? He doesn't seem to be particularly too much of a lunatic. But this, with Tonga Loa or Tama Tonga, excuse me, he pulls it off. Like, you don't have to tell me he's crazy on commentary. I can tell he's just acting crazy.
Yeah, he just started doing it. They didn't announce it. They didn't say it. He just started acting weird, is what I'm going to call it. And they ran with it. Great reaction on there. And like you said, kind of organic on it. So I love what they're doing with it.
Along with Jacob Fatu, who looks unpredictable. They just kind of look like, okay, that's like maybe the whole idea of Solo Sikoa being the tribal chief to a sound-minded person doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But to those two guys, okay, that makes sense that they're thrown off.
Yeah, makes 100% sense.
So let's get into the show. Cody Rhodes made his way out to the ring, and then surprisingly, from Raw, Chad Gable came. Like I said, I didn't even put it together that Chad Gable was from Raw, but that was part of it. In transfer portal season, Chad Gable shows up with like American Made, basically goes out and talks trash to Rhodes, and Rhodes asked for a battle between him and Chad Gable to set up the main event. So did a pretty good job there. Chad Gable in his hometown taking shots at the crowd. But I thought this was pretty good stuff. Chad Gable, kind of a perfect, not full blown feud, but interesting enough match to put together.
Yeah, and he would be somebody that would benefit from going from Raw to SmackDown, because he's done everything he can, and we talked about it. He's kind of not doing so well over there. So you bring him to SmackDown, get him in a mid card feud, maybe have him win a title or something, and facing off against Cody Rhodes, which I will say, skipping ahead, phenomenal match. It was a great match between them, showing his skills. SmackDown could be a good move for him if they decide to do that.
Yeah, and he's getting the "you suck" chance, and so the whole comparison to Kurt Angle, like you said, I think last week, how they missed on him being Kurt Angle's son rather than his partner back in the day was just
100% miss.
Just doesn't make any sense to this day. But in any case, that was the main event setup, was Chad Gable and Cody Rhodes. Then the first actual match of the night was a triple threat. This one for the women's U.S. title between Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Elektra Lopez. Candice LeRae did end up getting interfering and distracting Naomi. Stratton was able to throw Naomi out of the ring, then hit a moonsault on Lopez for the win. She also, in front of her hometown crowd, got a very big pop. And we've been complaining about how she doesn't get enough wins. Maybe this is selling up for her in Chelsea at the end, which is what I really hope.
That'd be amazing.
In this. And of course, they had their own moment at Money in the Bank. But I think that's kind of where they're setting up this tournament. But at least Tiffany Stratton getting a win here.
Yeah, it's good. And man, if she's not going to cash in, her Money in the Bank anytime soon, I know it could be confusing, but give her, have her be, the runner up for this title. Could make it interesting. I mean, if she loses the finals, hey, have her cash in that on the title. I know we don't want that to happen and things like that, but yeah, Tiffany Stratton versus Chelsea Green. That's also who I'm going for. I think that'd be fun. That'd be a great, phenomenal finals for this women's U.S. title.
But just because of the reasons that you just kind of laid out there, it might make more sense, or at least for us to hope for not cashing in on a U.S. title eventually, for her to lose maybe the next round of the match and not ultimately lead that up, because I don't want. Oh man, I just cannot stomach that happening. But
it didn't work well for Austin Theory.
No, it did not.
So it does not. But they could also do. We've talked about it. They haven't been doing great. She was great in this match. You remember why she's good. If she's a U.S. champ and has the briefcase, I mean, then you're really telling a story of she's a champ already, and then why she's not cashing in. That would make a little bit more sense. But
Yeah, we'll see what direction they go. They got plenty, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
And we'll see where they go with it. Then we had Bianca Belair against Piper Niven. This was Piper Niven and Chelsea Green approached Bianca Belair and started talking trash to her in the back. So this led to a match between Belair and Niven. The ST hit the KOD with Niven on top of Chelsea Green for the victory. So about what you would expect of this match, booked pretty well, entertaining, all that stuff.
Yeah, great. I think Piper Niven's kind of growing. That tag team of Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, they're doing a lot better in the ring. I know they're still losing, but Chelsea's kind of doing her own thing in the title run. I mean, they put up a fight against Bianca. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, the one thing grievance I would have is Piper Niven in the backstage segment sounded like she was reading off cards at times. So like you said, Chelsea Green's definitely the mouth of that group, but even as a supporting role, you got to give a little more effort.
Yeah, 100%
at times. But then we also saw after that match the Street Profits were attacked backstage. So all this ultimately allowed DIY to step into this tag match, which would come later in the show. Then we had the Shinsuke Nakamura, the U.S. title winner from the recent Premium Live event, make his appearance. LA Knight came out, started to talk about a rematch with Shinsuke, and then Andrade came out. So they're starting to feel like there's a line to attack Shinsuke and to try to get that U.S. title.
Yeah.
But then Tama Tonga and Jacob Fadu come out and beat up Knight and Andrade. They almost went for Nakamura, but he started spewing some of that black liquid from his mouth. Which looked really cool.
Yeah.
And so they kind of backed off Shinsuke Nakamura there. Just a lot going on there. A lot going on in that segment that I just said. Obviously, Tonga and Fatu and Solo Sikoa now maybe turning their attention away from the bloodline. They also did the whole necklace thing and still tribal chiefs, which again, as I mentioned earlier in the show as well, kind of took away from the point of War Games, which I was worried about for weeks, talking about going into that match. Is like, I just don't know what's at stake if it's not for the title, the head of the table, the title of head of the table, and we come out with Solo Sikoa losing and still claiming that spot.
Yeah, it's very confusing, and he's saying he's going to take over. I mean, it's confusing because we've talked about it. Just pick up the dang Ula Fala and take it. You're the tribal chief. Roman Reigns had like a million opportunities to do that because they keep beating the new bloodline. And Solo, typical speech. He's still the head of the table, tribal chief. But I did like how he said he was going to, pretty much take over the whole locker room. He was going to do that. So if they want to turn him into that big brawler group, I'm fine with. And then going back to that, LA Knight needs that rematch. I mean, Andrade can go away for just a little bit. They need to get that rematch in to see if they can get my boy his title back.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And Shinsuke, just with that move they made, they're still trying to kind of reshape his character and kind of this new kind of dangerous character. And that looked really good. It just looked like he was a snake ready to attack,
Yeah, I thought that was fun. Yeah,
he really cool.
Yeah, the bloodline just kind of look at him and he's like, and they're like, we don't want
any part of the mist. Yeah. You can get out of here. So I don't know if the bloodline maybe will go, feature themselves in the U.S. title picture at some point. Who really knows here? But that's where I kind of like it. Is you just got a mix of a bunch of characters that need a next move, and they're all kind of thrown in this thing together, and we'll see what happens. Like we said, with the new bloodline, they've got some members missing, so they got to kind of figure out what their plans were. Coming after War Games might not be what they ultimately can go with because they're just limited on personnel there. But we will see. Then we had Kevin Owens. He was supposed to have an interview with Michael Cole. He refused to enter the arena. Instead, he made Michael Cole come to his car. Entertaining enough stuff. Kevin Owens eventually got frustrated. He kind of tells his story about why he still feels like the company is against him and all that. So I thought that was pretty good. But we only got a few minutes left here, so we better move along. We did have Motor City Machine Guns against DIY again. This was DIY's making it pretty clear that they probably were the ones that took out the Street Profits to get this opportunity. But that was never really acknowledged too much on the show, which was interesting. But in any case, Ciampa and Gargano had not been getting along. Gargano kind of the good guy. Ciampa starting to turn evil and just attack anybody for gold. And they kind of told that story as well. Ciampa nearly walking out of this match. But ultimately, the ref was distracted, and Gargano, who had been kind of the peacemaker, hit Shelley with a low blow and then super kicks Shelley for a win. And then, well, not the win immediately. He tagged Ciampa to get his finisher in for the win. And you have new tag team champs in DIY. What do you kind of think about this move? Does this reflect well on Motor City Machine Guns? They just got here. Quick title hold for them ends pretty quickly. But for DIY, I think it was important because we've talked about it as single competitors. I don't know how much further they can go. This looked like the split was coming. Now you kind of revived them with the tag team title.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. We normally don't like the hot potato of the tag team titles on there, but I think, Motor City Machine Gun, that's always gonna tie me up. I think, it'll be good for them to be in this rivalry here with a heel DIY, because I didn't expect them to do that. Johnny Gargano, like you said, he's always been a baby face, and then to have him be the one that does a low blow, and then he says, hey, that worked, that felt kind of good. To do that to him and all that stuff. I think it'll be a good feud here for them.
Yeah, we even saw Candice LeRae embrace her real life husband in the back, Johnny Gargano, and now they're both heels. So maybe you could see Candice LeRae get involved with them at some point too. And then we have the main event of SmackDown here: Chad Gable against Cody Rhodes. Again, we mentioned earlier, hard fought battle. Kind of had to. You kind of had to make some way for Chad Gable to feel like he could win this one. Maybe never quite got there, but you did kind of get to an injury spot where Cody Rhodes took Cody Rhodes' belt, a boot off, and started to attack his ankle. So they at least used that kind of storytelling. And then after Cody gets the win, ultimately Kevin Owens shows up and immediately goes after Cody. Officials try to break it up. You have a brawl to end the show. Kind of a paint by the numbers way to do it. Whenever you have kind of a brawl leaving the show, it's kind of like, okay, makes sense for storytelling and kind of moves you to the next chapter there. But like we said, I think for Chad Gable, this was a good showcase for him, and it moves KO and Cody future, into the next big meeting.
Yeah. I'm excited for the Kevin Cody, match. I feel like it feels real. They really want to fight each other here. And as we said, for Chad Gable, this was a great showcase, and hopefully they do the right move and move him and American made to SmackDown, where they can maybe be used more and can be more involved, get more wins on there, and develop a little bit more.
Yeah, transfer portal should shake some things up in college football and now in wrestling. But that'll wrap it up for our show, Nuclear Heat, tonight. Thanks again to Augie for joining me today. Thanks to you guys for listening. We'll be back next week to talk more WWE wrestling. That'll wrap it up again for Nuclear Heat tonight.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.